The Ethran Royal Court Assembly was a formal affair. Elaborate ceremony where nobles, diplomats, and various dignitaries gathered to witness the Queen's judgments and proclamations. Human diplomatic observer Marcus Webb attended as part of his assignment to document Ethran governmental processes. He'd been briefed on basic protocols: maintain respectful distance, don't speak unless addressed, observe, but don't interfere. The briefing had covered general etiquette, but hadn't included specific details about seating arrangements. That level of protocol was apparently reserved for more senior diplomatic staff. The assembly hall was filling rapidly, attendees taking positions according to carefully understood hierarchies. Marcus found what appeared to be an available seat near the front, good vantage point for observation, appropriately positioned for someone of his diplomatic rank. He sat, pulled out his documentation tablet, and prepared to observe the proceedings. The reactions around him should have been his first clue something was wrong. Nobles stared with expressions ranging from shock to horror. Guards moved toward him with obvious alarm. The entire assembly seemed to freeze, uncertain how to respond to what Marcus had apparently just done. Then Queen Celera entered, ascending to her throne with the perfect composure that came from years of formal ceremonies. She looked at Marcus sitting in the seat beside her throne, the seat everyone else had carefully avoided, and something shifted in her expression. Not anger, but something Marcus couldn't quite identify. Celera sat upon her throne, and before any guard could reach Marcus to remove him, she did something completely unprecedented. She reached out and caught his hand, her grip gentle but unmistakable. "Stay," she said quietly, her voice carrying just far enough for Marcus to hear. "Don't leave." The assembly hall remained frozen in shock. The Queen, known for maintaining absolute distance from everyone, for never allowing casual physical contact, for upholding the most rigid protocols, was holding a human's hand and asking him to remain in the seat reserved for chosen companions. Marcus's brain struggled to process what was happening. "Your Majesty, I think I may have taken the wrong seat. If there's a protocol issue." "You took the seat beside my throne," Celera said, still holding his hand gently. "The seat reserved for chosen companion, one I trust absolutely, one I acknowledge publicly as worthy of my complete confidence. That seat has been empty for 8 years." She looked at him directly, her violet eyes carrying complexity he couldn't fully read. "And you simply sat in it, apparently unaware of its significance, with no calculation or ambition. Just sat, because it appeared available and provided good observation position." "I didn't know," Marcus said honestly. "I apologize if I violated." "You violated nothing," Celera interrupted, "because I am choosing to recognize your presence rather than dismiss it. The seat is reserved for one I acknowledge as companion, and I am acknowledging you by choosing to allow you to remain." Around them, the assembly remained in careful stasis, nobles and courtiers uncertain how to process their queen holding someone's hand and publicly claiming them as companion. The senior court advisor approached with visible alarm. "Your Majesty, surely you don't intend to recognize this human as chosen companion based on accidental seating." "I intend to recognize that someone sat beside me without fear or calculation," Celera said, her voice carrying authority that silenced further protest. "That alone is remarkable enough to deserve acknowledgement. But more significantly, when I asked him to stay, he didn't immediately try to use that request for advantage. He expressed concern about protocol violations. That character is exactly what chosen companions should demonstrate." She looked at Marcus, still holding his hand. "The assembly will proceed. You will remain beside me. We will discuss this further after the formal proceedings conclude." The assembly proceeded with palpable tension, everyone acutely aware that the Queen was holding hands with a human seated in the companion's place, but no one daring to question her public choice to recognize him. Marcus sat quietly, trying to maintain composure while internally processing that he was apparently now publicly recognized as the Queen's chosen companion based on accidentally sitting in the wrong seat, and being too confused to immediately flee when she asked him to stay. When the assembly finally concluded and the hall cleared, Celera released Marcus's hand, but gestured for him to follow her to a private chamber adjacent to the throne room. Once they were alone, she explained more fully. "The seat beside my throne is reserved for chosen companion. Someone I trust absolutely. Someone I acknowledge publicly as worthy of my complete confidence and affection. It carries profound significance in our culture, representing the one person a ruler allows to see past the crown to the person beneath. She looked at Marcus directly. That seat has been empty for 8 years since my husband died. Everyone in court knows its significance and carefully avoids it, understanding that sitting there would be presumption of intimacy that I have not granted. And I just sat in it because it looked available, Marcus said. You sat in it with no awareness of its significance, no calculation about what it represented, no attempt to use it for advantage, Solera corrected. That innocent mistake revealed something important. You approached my throne without the fear and calculation that everyone else brings. You simply saw an available seat with good observation position and took it. She paused. When I saw you sitting there, in the seat reserved for the one person I might allow to truly know me, I had a choice. I could have you removed for protocol violation, or I could recognize that someone had accidentally positioned themselves exactly where I've been longing for genuine companionship, but finding only calculation and fear. So you held my hand and asked me to stay to make a point, Marcus asked. I held your hand because I wanted to, Solera said, her voice carrying vulnerability Marcus hadn't expected from a queen. For 8 years, I have sat on that throne with an empty seat beside me, surrounded by people who fear me or calculate how to use me but never simply connect with me as a person. She looked at him directly. When you sat in that companion's seat with complete innocence, expressing concern about protocol violations rather than trying to leverage the position for advantage, I recognized something I'd been missing. Someone who might actually see me as a person rather than just a crown. But you don't know me, Marcus protested. I could be anyone. You are someone who sat beside my throne without fear or ambition, Solera interrupted. Someone who, when I reached for your hand and asked you to stay, expressed concern about protocols rather than immediately calculating what advantage such recognition might bring. That character, that absence of calculation, is exactly what I've been unable to find in 8 years of carefully maintained distance. She paused. I am not claiming you as life partner based on accidental seating. I am asking if you would be willing to spend time with me, not as queen and diplomatic observer, but as two people who might discover if that companion's seat could be filled by genuine connection rather than remaining empty from fear that no one will ever approach it with honest intentions. Marcus thought about the loneliness visible beneath her composed exterior, the vulnerability in asking someone she barely knew to consider being the companion her throne had space for but she'd been unable to find. I can do that, Marcus said. Spend time with you as people rather than positions. See if the connection you're looking for might actually exist rather than just being something you're hoping for. Over the following weeks, as Marcus and Solera built something that resembled genuine connection, conversations without performance, time together without protocol dictating every interaction, the court had to adjust to their queen publicly acknowledging a companion for the first time in 8 years. During one conversation, Solera revealed more. When I asked you to stay, when I held your hand publicly, I was taking enormous risk. You could have used that recognition for political advantage. You could have manipulated the companion's position for personal gain. Everyone expected you to do exactly that. But you didn't, she continued. You expressed concern about protocol violations. You asked if you'd made a mistake. You approached the recognition I offered with genuine uncertainty rather than calculating ambition. That character is what convinced me you might actually be someone worth having in that companion's seat, because you don't want to be there for the power it represents, only for the connection it might provide. I just didn't want to cause problems, Marcus said. And that humility, Solera responded, is exactly what makes you worth knowing, because someone who sits beside a queen's throne and worries about protocol violations rather than immediately seeking advantage is someone who might actually see the person beneath the crown. Which is all I've wanted for 8 years, but been unable to find until you accidentally sat in the one seat everyone else carefully avoided. Some connections are built through careful courtship and strategic positioning, some through shared experiences and mutual understanding, and some begin when someone accidentally sits in the wrong seat with complete innocence, triggering recognition that genuine connection requires